I'm going to call the Planning and Zoning Commission the Monday, December 8th meeting. It's a 6 o'clock meeting. I'm going to call that meeting to order. And Brandy or Kelly can do roll call.
Yep, got it.
And item number 2 is the Pledge of Allegiance. And Colleen, can I ask you to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item number 3 is approval of the minutes. And the minutes on our agenda is November 10th, 2025. Is there a motion or discussion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Doug, is there a second? Second by Lisa. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes, and I will say 6-0, correct?
Yes. Yeah, Caitlin is online.
Yep. For everybody in the room to know, there's the 5 commissioners up front here, and Caitlin, our alternate, is on a pending online, and she is a voting member tonight. So item number 4 is a public hearing on a petition for rezoning from an A3 agricultural transition district to M2 general industrial district for approximately 69.29 acres consisting of parcels denoted on the agenda located along Green Acres Lane and south of Daly Road, Village of the Forest. And I guess I do want to know, but I think this is the first time at the planning and zoning meeting that we sort of more or less stated on the agenda what is our normal practices and have a staff presentation, developer presentation, and public comment. So just to be more, just be more conducive to the meeting as far as what we do so people understand. And with that staff presentation, I guess I'm looking at Mark because you're looking at me. Yeah.
I am looking at it.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commission. First of all, I'll apologize. I'm dealing with a cold. So if I start hacking, that's why. And I pity the fool who has to use this microphone. This first item is petition to rezone 69 acres of land. This land is off of Hickory Lane, with many lands that were annexed to the village in 2023. The lands are currently owned by Chris and Karen Evans, and they're under contract to the Dickman Company, who you'll recall from their previous 4 buildings that were constructed in the village, sort of build to lease type buildings throughout different parts of the community. This land has been long planned for development and industrial development. It first appears in municipal plans for industrial development about 25 years ago. It was brought into the urban service area about that time. And it was actually preliminarily platted back in 2006, but at least this portion wasn't followed through on. This is an extension of the industrial park that starts with Cape Parkway and ends to the south. And the Dickman Company actually built a multi-tenant warehouse building that you all approved about a year ago. And you can see it on the landscape today. This is southwest of that building. The request tonight is to rezone the land to facilitate industrial development. The land is largely cropland today. It has no environmentally sensitive dairy lands. It's bisected by an unimproved right of way of Green Acres Lane, which if you've been to the pet resort there, that's the way to get in and out of the pet resort. So this will eventually facilitate the construction of that to a full development. And also the extension of King Parkway from its current end to the south. Will not be the final stop or final time you'll see development proposals for this area. The information in your packet has a 5-building concept plan, and before any of those buildings can be constructed, the Dickman Company will have to come back to the Planning and Zoning Commission for site plan approval for those buildings, which will understand more fully what the uses are going to be and what sort of impacts might be on the community. With that, I will just note that after the public hearing, I'll be ready to talk a little bit more about my recommendation on this item when we get to item 4.2 on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you for reminding me this is a public hearing, and I called us an agenda item, and normally I say that it was open, and I believe it was open at 6:04. So the point 2 is developer presentation. Is there any or?
Somebody likes to speak under this item.
Okay.
Well, this is that next 30 on it's today. She didn't want to speak. But
Is that about the same too?
yes.
Yeah, okay. So is there a developer presentation under this segment?
Would you like us to come open?
Yeah, so if you could sit up to the mic and state your name, and if you want to present anything or at a minimum, just be available for questions. With the mic thing.
My name is Sam Dickman. It's my son, Sam Jr. And as Mark mentioned, we've developed, just finishing our 4th building in DeForest. 3 of them have been fully leased. This one's a spec building, and we have some prospective tenants that for this building, and once it's pretty much full, then we'll be moving on to the land that's being rezoned with buildings that are similar to the one that we've already leased and built. In our portfolio, generally, we have about 25 or 26 buildings, primarily in southeast Wisconsin, all of which are leased to industrial tenants. And we assume that this one which is finishing will be similarly leased, and then we will construct other buildings of various sizes depending upon the market. Or probably the plan would be once Cake is leased, fully leased pretty much, then we'll start the second building, the twin, directly across the street to the west. And once that's done, then we'll figure out where we would put the next one within this 69 acres that we requested to be rezoned. We will, as we've done in the past, we'll sign developers agreements with the village regarding the public improvements, who's paying for them, and this sort of thing, which I think has worked out very well in the past. I know that there are a lot of people here who are concerned about the data center, even though it's not on the agenda tonight. I know it's on a lot of people's minds. Our properties are not suited for data centers, and we do not lease to data centers. And if you know anything about them, you know that they require much larger developments than the ones we're talking about tonight. So I can tell you that this is the furthest thing from a data center. I think maybe you've seen our properties. If there's any questions that you may have for either of us, we'd be happy to answer.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dickman. Brady or whoever's got the mouse, you have the concept map up there. I wonder if you can highlight the building that you, like, Mr. Dickman was talking about that actually is in right now.
That would be this one right here.
Okay, thank you.
So if you look at the plan, on the upper right is, what we call Cake Parkway. That building we've just finished and are in the process of looking for tenants and negotiating with a couple right now. The next building on the agenda would be directly to the left, which we call Cape West. And that would be a twin of 182,000 square feet, which would be a spec building again, and we'd be out looking for tenants. And as that building gets filled, we've indicated 4 other parcels within the 69 acres. This may change depending upon the market and the tenants that are out there. For example, the building on the far left is about 300,000 feet. This is too big a building for us to spec. We may be successful, but we're not foolish. So we're not gonna put that kind of money into a spec building. But some of the others are smaller, and as we fill up the smaller ones, then we would continue to march on. And as Mark mentioned, we have to come in and get approval for each of these properties. And so some of these may change depending upon the market. We may be bigger, maybe smaller, but it would still be industrial developments within the 69 acres. We're not talking about any retail or commercial space, industrial. And I think while we don't have renderings of the buildings, I think you would agree that the physical appearance of these properties is very attractive for what they are, which are really big boxes to accommodate different types of tenants. But we try to make them as attractive as possible, both the architecture and the landscape. And I think we've achieved that.
Thank you, Mr. Dickman. So yes, did you, honor you, Mr. Dickman? Thank you. The next agenda item is 4.1.3, which is public comment, and I do have, I think, two people wishing to speak, so yeah. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
So wishing to speak, I have a Cass Summerfield is up first, followed by a Lindsay Frey. Just a minute while we get the content. I think. Sorry, don't want to interrupt staff. Okay. So this one is a public hearing, so is that 5 minutes instead of 3?
3 to 5.
3 to 5. Okay. Thank you for your patience. Yeah, please state your name and if you're willing, your address, and feel free to start.
My name is Cassandra, my address is on the form. I'm here in opposition to the rezoning. I guess a few concerns. I know that they've already started building that. And so I don't think that it's necessarily a good idea for a bunch of gray boxes to fill that entire area, especially since it's essentially what you see right next to the big elephant that a lot of people like to come to that area for. Not to mention, I had seen in previous comprehensive plans that there was supposed to be a water facility projected for that area as well, so I don't know how that's going to significantly impact that. I think that we should, I guess, be a little bit more cognizant of what type of items are gonna be coming in there and not just an empty box that could be leased to anybody. I get that, you know, that every time that they're going to have new individuals in there, they have to come to you, but it's still going to be a big empty box there. Whatever may fill that space, come and go, whatnot. So, I just, you think that this would get easier each time. I just think that, if we're gonna start rezoning things, that we should be taking a little bit more care into that, especially with farmland, because we are losing such a significant amount of it, for multiple reasons, including development, especially when we're switching to something like industrial, because I know that DeForest had really looked at smart growth, and I don't know how smart it is to be going towards industrial, especially with how much investment is going towards parks and recreation that will directly counteract those investments. If somebody has a bike path and what they're looking at is a big gray building. So I think that that needs to be taken into account a little bit more. If that's more of the growth that you're going towards, I think that this contradicts that, and I think that that's something we should be taking into account, especially when you're looking at potential loss of revenue, people who are coming up here for those outdoor recreation areas, especially with it being so close to Madison. You know, there's a lot of natural areas to compete with, and I think that this is just going to kind of start that snowball. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So next is, Mrs. Fry.
Right, yeah.
Again, please state your name and if you're willing, your address.
Sure. Lindsay Fry, 511 Shane O'Donnell Drive. I should have brought my 10-year-old with me. She didn't know I was coming. She knows I'm coming in for whatever reason, but we live right off River Road. And when she saw those apartments and those condos going up, she was furious. So, and of course, trying to explain to a 10-year-old the balance of needing housing versus animals and all the deer, is hard to explain, right? And I think there's a balance. But I'm really worried that we're losing a lot of the land. And of course, that happens to be pretty close to our house. I'm also concerned that this, is farmland, and, I'm concerned that the farmland is just being eaten. I think we need to be really mindful of that. And I have to say, I'm pretty ignorant to this whole process. So it was great to hear everyone's proposal. And I would have to say right now, I have more questions than I have answers. For someone who doesn't know like a lot about like the leasing, what type of person leases industrial warehouse? I don't know that. I don't know. It would be nice for me to have more information on that, but I guess it sounds like you approve this first and then the other developers come in. I'm also concerned about the economy. I'm not also a huge fan of large empty boxes. And I'm concerned about the land, and there's gonna be some environmental impact regardless. Even if it's not a data center or whatever. So, I think we have to be very careful on how we develop and where we develop. Thank you.
Thank you. So sorry, I'm reading an email that we got. There was a individual, Ula Bazinski, that's sent an email. And did she want it read? And Jesus registered for opposition.
Yeah, she did not indicate one way or the other, just wanted to register the opposition. This will be added to the final record in the packet.
Okay. Thank you, Brandon. So with that, I'm going to close the public hearing at 6:21. move on to item number 4.2. Commission discussion and recommendation on the petition for rezoning as previously stated. And I'm maybe looking at, I'll say Mark, because I've noted a couple of concerns that were brought up by the public comments, and I wonder if you want to address any of those, and I can pull it some for our discussion.
No, I can adjust some of them. The first comment that I wrote down was, a question with regard to the water. Within the village's comprehensive plan, again, for many years, there's been, a recommendation that the village will require eventually another water tower west of the interstate to accommodate growth and development to the west. And we have requested, and a recommended site or an optional site is within the 69 acres. So we requested, and in concept that Dickmans have provided, on the conceptual site plan of location for a potential water tower. Funding for that potential water tower has yet to be determined. Timing of need has yet to be determined. There is a tax increment district that covers this area, and at least partial funding of the water tower is listed as an eligible project in that project plan. One of the recommended conditions of approval that we'll get into more ties to following through and providing that site for a future water tower. Secondly, they're concerned about who might lease these facilities. The recommended zoning is M2, which is our general industrial zoning district. That allows an array of industrial and warehouse and related land uses. Best opportunity to understand what might locate there would be to drive through the Northtown Corporate Park, Industrial Park, drive through the Forest Industrial Park, and see the range of uses that have there. But more specifically, to understand who is commonly leasing their facilities as they're developing, and they're in a better position. I don't keep track of the leases, but maybe after I get through here, they can give you an example or examples of who's leased their facilities in the forest to give you a sense for the type that is most likely within these buildings. Couple comments about loss of farmland. No doubt this is good productive farmland. That's really not an argument. However, this is farmland that is identified, has been identified for many years for development and not preservation. And that's within the village's plan, that's within the town of Vienna's plan, and that's within Dane County's plan. And that's why, that's also tied to the fact that it's within the urban service area, which is the legal area within which the village can extend sewer and water services. There's a lot of very good farmland in Dane County. We're also the fastest growing county in the state. These two things are often at loggerheads with one another. The final comment I'll mention is that the opportunities provided by development are linked to the opportunities for additional parks and recreation and other amenities that the community provides. I work for a number of different communities. It takes new development to provide amenities, to provide the wealth to fund them. You don't have to drive too far out of Madison to see communities that are struggling and they're unable to provide athletic complexes, other miles of trail. I just saw that we have 25 miles of off-street trail into forest. 20 years ago, we had about 2. That's a product of the development that's created the opportunities and the wealth for those things to happen. I think with that, I'll close my comments, but there is definitely land that's being consumed for development and industrial development. This is sort of the next frontier that the Forest Industrial Park, aside from 1 or 2 small sites, is full. The Northtown Corporate Park, aside from 1 or 2 or 3 smaller sites, is full. Quick Trip has occupied a lot of additional land that has been slated for industrial development for their distribution center. So this is one of the large areas that we do have available to accommodate industrial development, which the forest for decades has done well in and specialized in, given its location in the region of proximity to interstate airports and larger metro areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I guess if I could ask commissioners, if you wish, we could have the Dickmans come and give us some examples of businesses that they cater to. Could you state your name, please?
Sam Dickman Jr.
Thank you, sir.
So the first building that we built has two tenants in it. The first was Merck, a pharmaceutical company. The second tenant is Big Joe Forklift. We were just over there today, and they use autonomous forklifts and AI, and they have a large engineering staff to make sort of a modern forklift. They're pulling people from all over the country to come work here, so it's growing. Second building we built was Frito-Lay Pepsi Distribution Center. The third building was a spec building, and it was filled with Porter Pipe. They're gonna have about 120 employees there doing distribution and get some fabrication of pipe. Family-owned business out of Illinois. And fourth building, we just finished Cape Harbor. We don't have any tenants yet, but we have two manufacturing companies looking at taking different pieces of the whole building. This one seems to be going more manufacturing than warehousing, but we don't have any leases signed yet. Also like to point out that the industrial product pays a pretty high tax, but we don't require a lot of services. So there's no kids in schools. We don't have a lot of problems with municipal services, but we pay a lot of taxes. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you. Commissioners, any discussion? Lisa?
Yes, I have a few questions. Page 7 of our agenda and packet. The original CUP said it could be expanded up to 56 acres, up to 69 acres. Among the CUP conditions, the site shall be reclaimed no later than 10 years from approval of the CUP 2019. So around that time. But I get some more information on that. It seems to me there might be about 3-4 years left to any reclamation that was required. I'm curious what that was all about.
Sure. And the property owners here, you might be able to fill this in a little bit too. But in 2019, the conditional use permit was approved to extract sand and gravel from much of this same 59 acres. As far as I can tell, the sand and gravel operation in fact covers about 20 acres near the center of this development. The conditional use permit was granted with a 10-year lifespan, meaning that the ability to extract sand and gravel lasted 10 years, and after that 10 years, the sand and gravel site needed to be restored to facilitate future development according to plans. So they in fact have 3.5 years to finish that extraction operation. How that eventually plays out is between the Yahara Minerals, which is doing the extraction, to my understanding, the current owner, and the Dickman Corporation. So there could be significant additional extraction in the next few years. There could be no additional extraction, but by the terms of that conditional use permit, it all's got to be done within 3.5 years.
Thank you. Are they on target to meet that 3.5 year deadline?
It all depends on how much more you know, they're proposing to extract, if any. And again, it's sort of between them, the owners, to decide how to, and the operator decide how that works relative to the Dickman's plans to build according to concept. You know, I can tell you that second building, what they're calling Cape West, is not affected by the extraction operation at all. Building that they labeled building 3, which is kind of the square building off of Green Lane on the left side of your map, is not in an area that's currently being extracted. The next building to its east would be, that's the area that, you know, basically is hit right now for standard gravity extraction. So that all has to be, you know, sorted out over the next few years. You know, the Dickmans have been building, you know, more or less one building a year within the forest. So, you know, the timing of that third building may correspond fairly nicely with the completion of extraction in that same area.
Did the staff have any problems with, the developer adhering to any of the conditions, set forth within that CUP?
Randy, you might be in a better position to answer. Have we had any complaints or concerns associated with the extraction operation?
We have not received any complaints associated with it. It is monitored by the DNR as well, to ensure that they are following the conditional use permit, but also the DNR regulations. I know they do that on a regular basis, but we have not received any public complaints or any input on the actual process itself.
Thank you. I have another question. On the bottom left of page 7, there's some squares. I'm curious what those structures are. Are they residential homeowners?
You mean to the west of Hickory Lane? There's 2 yellow boxes that you see. Is that what you're talking about?
They look white, like little white boxes on page 7 across the road from Hickory, or on the west side of Hickory Lane.
Yeah, those are rural residences. They might have some be associated with farms there.
Okay.
They're, I would say, quarter to a half mile from the nearest part of this rezoning area.
Quarter mile, okay. So have they been consulted on any of this expansion, and have you received any feedback from these homeowners or farm owners?
We have sent notices to everyone within, tell me the number, 500 feet. And have not received any comment from anyone before this evening and the information that you have.
So 1650 is like half a mile, right?
Half a mile is about quarter mile, so 1,300 feet. So they were beyond the notice limit.
Okay, so they don't know about this. All right,
Well, there's public notice.
yeah. Okay, and then in terms of, we're indicating, distribution and logistics and so forth. Is there any chance that, there's Sam Dickman Jr. or Sam Dickman Sr., if you could provide us with a little bit more information? The packet does clearly specify that you're in conversations with, potential residents for these facilities. I'm curious what type of contractors or industrial businesses are seeking to take up residence within these potential structures.
The groups that are looking at the empty building today are assembly or manufacturing right now, not warehousing. That could switch, but currently it's almost all manufacturing.
Is there any, sorry, I'm now going off the cuff because I've got notes in front of me, but that brings me to think of other potential risks for those neighboring properties that are maybe just outside of those 500 feet and could be affected, right? So
Well, there's, I mean, it's mainly like assembly type work. It's not
Assembly.
order, it's not.
I'm not looking at distribution logistics as like what's noted in the packet, like we're not talking about any type of, mail order business where there's, trucks and a lot of high traffic or anything of
That's
that
not who's
nature.
looking at the building currently.
Okay, okay.
There could be businesses with trucks. Lisa? That's part of the industry and part of what's allowed. Warehousing and distribution uses are allowed in the forest, and there's a number of them. I mean, the Quick Trip facility is a distribution facility, for instance. So I wouldn't in any way promise there would not be distribution-based businesses here. There very well could be. There are also plans to improve Hickory Lane to get to County B, to get to the interstate for those businesses.
I see. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. And I guess I just want to apologize to Lisa Taylor. I don't see her on the screen, so if you ever need to talk or want to talk, please raise your hand or something. Sorry. Any other comments? Especially from commissioners? I guess, seeing that, I want to bring up one item that I noted from the public too. There was talk about being concerns about the environmental issues, and Mark, I'm just wondering if you wanna maybe state for everybody's knowledge, the process moving forward, how the number of steps and how, say, we address some of those environmental concerns during site plan review and things like that.
Sure. Depending on how many buildings they actually come forward with ultimately, they would have to come back for each one for site and building plan approval. That during that process, we would receive detailed architectural plans, a landscape plan. There'd be a site assessment checklist required that they go through a list of potential environmental issues and how they're going to address them. Depending on the uses involved, a conditional use permit may be required specifically if they desire outdoor storage, which some of their facilities have, some don't. Depending on the types of tenants, they anticipate there may be a requirement for a spill prevention and control plan that we've seen with a number of industrial developments. We would continue to engage with police and fire if we have already to understand their concerns and needs for access. And with the engineering staff regarding stormwater benefit. As I think many of you know, Dayton County and by extension, the Village of DeForest has the most progressive stormwater management requirements in the state. And those will be applied to each development as it comes forward here. As well.
Thank you. Commissioners, anything else, or we do have this as agenda item with action? Yes.
I had one question. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you now, Caitlin.
Okay, it's Caitlin. I just had a question on the written comment that we received via email today. It mentioned that the parcels in question are in the town of Vienna, and I just wanted to clarify that the parcels were in fact annexed into the village, so they're in DeForest.
That's correct. They are not in Vienna. They were once in Vienna,
Okay.
but in 23, the property owner requested and the village approved annexation.
Okay, but I thought, thank you.
Thank you. So we do have
I have another question.
Lisa, yeah.
Sorry, I just have another question that with the well system, right, and the water usage, do we in fact have the systems, the infrastructure in place to service any potential, like additional, could be pharmaceutical company, could be manufacturing, right? It could be anything. Do we have the infrastructure to support the expansion of these properties?
Yes. Eventually, per village water system plans, a new water tower will be required, but it won't be required for the first couple of buildings in this development.
Thank you.
Thank you. So again, we're on item 4.2, commission discussion and recommendation, and I think there is a staff recommendation in the packet. Brandy or whoever pulled it up on screen. Any commissioners willing to make a recommendation?
I would make a recommendation that the commission recommend to the board adoption of what is in the ordinance as written. And may I just make a comment also,
Please.
to allay fears that might be present on the part of some of the public. The Dickmans have been very cooperative with their Frito-Lay building. Has a residential neighborhood very nearby. A big residential neighborhood, the Fox, what do you call it? Fair Tree, Fox Hills, yeah. They had neighborhood meetings with those people. They had already proposed putting a berm up between their building and the residential area, and because of the citizens' concerns, they heightened that berm. I've just seen no complaints, and the village staff has no complaints with anything the Dickmans have ever done. They bring businesses into these buildings, not people that are gonna be moving in and out, you know, within a year or two. These are businesses and companies that they bring in. So with that, I am done, and I would recommend to the village board that we approve the rezoning of the 69.29 acres along Green Acres and south of Dillard Road.
Thank you, Colleen, and I believe with your motion, you're including the 5 comments and recommendation.
That's correct, as written.
Thank you. Motion on the floor, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. So, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in voting for approval, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Colleen, Gina, and everybody. Item number 4.3, and thank you, Victor. Item 4.3 is discussion and action on the amendment to the final development plan for Ridge at Fox Hills, southeast of Peterson Crossing, Bear Tree Parkway intersection, Village of the Forest, Dane County, Wisconsin. So this one is a regular agenda item. Staff. Mark again, thank you.
Yep. I think the prior discussion would take us here, but it did. This is the condominium development at the southeast corner of Bear Tree Parkway and Peterson Crossing in the Fox Hill Estates area, just north of the corporate headquarters for Hooper Corporation. The planning commission, it's a lot of information in the packet. They came before us multiple times in the course of a 6 to 8 month period for approvals. They've been building the project out since that time. They had 2 building types. One was a ranch condominium type that's been selling very well. And the second one was a 2-story condominium type that has not been selling well. The developer suspects that part of the reason is that that building doesn't have a first floor bedroom. And that's what the market is kind of seeking. They have spotted or identified a 3rd building, 2-story building type or second 2-story with first floor bedroom. However, that building type requires larger lots than were platted as part of the development. So the reason they're here tonight before you is to ask for approval to reconfigure the central lots for this what's called Building C in your packet. That 11 lots would get a little bit bigger to fit that little bit bigger building. And in addition to that, we're asking for an amendment to the planning development, final development plan to allow these this additional building type within those lots. I'll be happy to answer questions as we move forward.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Is there the developer presentation? Yeah. Please state your name and address, everyone.
Keith Holmes with Ridge Development. Address is Great Ridge Drive into Forest. So I think Mark said pretty much everything that needs to be said. There's 31 buildings out there, approved for 31 buildings. 16 of them are ranch style. Of those, so 32 units of ranch style, we've sold 24 of those. The ranches will be done this summer pretty easily. The 2-story, which has the master bedroom on the 2nd floor, we have sold 2 units out of 30. The feedback we get is we wish there was a master bedroom on the main floor. So basically what we did, same style of building, we just expanded it. We made it, I believe it's about 7.5 to 8 feet wider than the existing 2-story. Now we have a master bedroom on the 1st floor. So we just reconfigured the site to accommodate for that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
Public comment, I do not have any. So item 4.3.4, commissioner discussion on potential action. Commissioners? We do have a recommendation on screen right now, if anybody's wishing to move to that.
I have questions.
Lisa, please.
So the buildings were expanded and reconfigured. Did that come back before us? I don't recall for approval.
They're coming back before you tonight.
This is it right now, okay. And do we have any impact to permeable spaces and runoff and drainage as a issue caused by this reconfiguration?
The stormwater management facilities for this area are regional in nature. In other words, that they were developed for the whole Hooper development. And the village engineers confirmed that they are sufficiently sized to accommodate the added impervious surface associated with these bigger footprint units.
Since it's coming before us now, should we be reviewing this reconfigured space? Is there would there normally be a presentation or staff presentation on this reconfigured plan?
Could you go to the next page, Brandy, of the report? So there's 2 maps here on this page. And the top represent all the changes are occurring in the central loop part of the development. The top represents the lots that were platted 2 years ago now, 2-3 years ago. And the bottom represents the proposed change to the plat. You can tell that the lots are bigger, right? And they utilize some of the land that's in the space labeled Outlot 1, which is a common area intended for hanging out. There's a fire pit that's going to be built in that central area. The other things that you have in the packet are buildings that are labeled Building A, Building B, and Building C. Building A is the ranch style that you approved back in 2023. Building B is the 2-story that you approved in 2023. There still are, I think, 3 sites towards the left or west edge of this development for that type. And then Building C is what you're being asked to approve for the rest of for the sites that are in the middle on that map that I just showed you. There is also, in addition to that, in the packet, a revised landscape plan covering that area because different buildings require different landscape treatments. The lighting plan is unchanged from prior. As I mentioned, engineering plans have been reviewed by the village engineer. They're largely unchanged, but there were small grading plan changes to that central area that are included in the packet. So this item in particular is approval of the final development plan amendments that encompass all of that I just mentioned. And you'd be asked, or you are asked, to approve resolution 2025-916 in the packet that would approve those plan changes.
In essence, Mark, this is a higher density, correct?
It's higher coverage, but the number of housing units is the same. And the sizes of the housing units are bigger than they were.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Anybody willing to make a motion? Sorry, I'm talking low because I'm looking or trying to read, so.
Couple pages forward is the resolution that would approve the final development plan. It's actually, I'm sorry, I did this, the green box has the two things we're asking you to do in the wrong order, but there is a resolution in the packet that we just asked for your support in adopting that resolution, which would approve the amended final development plan.
So in front of us is resolution 2025-916 that we're asked to take action on.
Sure, thank you.
Anybody?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2025-916 as written.
Thank you, Colleen. Is there something? Thank you, Lisa. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Item number 4.4, discussion and recommendation on a preliminary plat and final plat of Ridge at Fox Hill, replat South Peterson Crossing, Fairview Parkway intersection, Village of DeForest, Dane County, Wisconsin. So
We just split, but this is the second, this is the second part of the request. In addition to amending basically the development plans, we need to ask for a recommendation from you all to the village board to approve a replat for that central area. That's the information I had up in the middle of the screen that would expand those central lots. The village engineer and I reviewed a previous version of the plat. They already addressed all the comments within that we offered there. So I think our recommendation is, it is to address any final technical comments, but that was written before I got an all clear from the village engineer that they've done that. So you could recommend it the way it's written, and that would be the safe approach. But this will go to the village board after your recommendation.
thank you, Mark. And can you remind me, why is it going to the village board? I think.
All final plats, all subdivision plats need to be approved by the village board.
Okay.
By ordinance, and I think state law.
Okay. So with that, is there anybody wishing to make a motion or continue discussion?
I'll make that recommendation as written.
Thank you, Doug. Is there a second?
I can second.
Thank you, Lisa. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Item number 4.5 is a public hearing on an ordinance amending the village zoning code, chapter 15, affecting conditional use permits and valuation criteria. I'm going to open that public hearing at 6:55. Staff presentation.
Me again. So this is a proposed ordinance amendment that originated to be a discussion with our staff development review team. That team includes folks from the police department, the fire and EMS department. And in particular, the idea is to have enough tools in our box to address projects that require conditional use permits in advance. In 2017, the state adopted a law that made it more difficult to apply conditions or reject conditional use permits. We've had some discussions in the past on the condition on this new state law. Not so new anymore. But in light of this discussion, in particular, the concern was facilities that generate a lot of public service demands, particularly related to people that live in the facilities, often associated with group living. And so the proposed ordinance would enhance the criteria in the zoning ordinance for conditional use permits. putting, shifting the burden a little bit on those applicants to make sure that they're providing for services for the folks that will occupy the space. And minimizing the impact on police, fire, EMS services going forward. The ordinance amendment in your packet is recommended for your recommendation for approval to the village board that would accomplish that. And I can go through that further as we get to the discussion item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Is there any public comment that you received? Oh. So I'm going to close the public hearing at 6:57. We're moving on to item 4.6, which is the discussion and recommendation on amending the village zoning code 15 by conditional use permits. Mark, did you say you had some additional, or I'll open it up to the commissioners?
I'll respond to questions if you have them.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any questions, comments? Lisa?
Mark, on page 81, there's a request to amend 3B. I was just curious why we wouldn't require a site plan, and we would loosen that up to state anticipated design and operational characteristics. Why wouldn't we want to accept the required site plan that is needed? Or
Because in some cases, a conditional use permit does not in fact require a site plan. And there are very good examples we just talked about today. The Dickmans, for example, have a multi-tenant building. They might construct the building and be all done with the building, and then a year later have a tenant that requires a conditional use permit. They don't need a site plan anymore because the site plan has already been created and approved. So my suggestion would be to, and we could keep it, but in many cases, the required site plan does not have to be submitted with a conditional use permit because the actual conditional use is just occupying the space that already exists.
So we could actually keep it as it is in that section, in effort to be more aware and more mindful of use and development.
There would be no harm in doing so. If you did that, I would just say as depicted on the required site plan and its anticipated design and our operational characteristics.
So we would remove and anticipated, just keep it as is, removing the.
I would suggest leaving that phrase in, Lisa. If you wanted to keep as depicted on the required site plan, my only suggestion would be that we add the word "and" after plan.
Thank you.
Are you questioning Lisa?
Yeah, I am. Thank you, Jim.
Yeah, for sure.
I just have a question in regards to that. Does that then create more expense then for someone who's going to be possibly go into an area? Into the building, would that add an extra cost to that business?
We would just interpret it, in my opinion, based on the fact that the required site plan has already been submitted and approved. So we would, we might require it to be submitted, but it wouldn't be an additional add if it had already been, for example, 2 years prior submitted and approved.
Anything else, Jane?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from commissioners? I do have one question that came up in during this discussion is, so it seems like this is specifically to say CUPs. And I don't know if it's necessarily different targeting different zonings, but I guess why I ask is there specific uses that we should maybe look at, or has that already been looked at, that maybe we want to remove some of the CUPs from our zoning codes, or whatever you want to say?
Yeah, well, I will say, and one of the things that Alex and Brady and I have talked about is when and if things calm down, we would like to revisit the whole land use tables within the zoning ordinance. That would be the next thing on our list. You all know that we've been bringing forward over the course of the last couple of years, kind of fixes to the zoning ordinance. That would be the next one that I would, recommend that we take a look at. So it's a big task. Right now, we know that, for example, group and senior living facilities almost always require a conditional use permit. We also know that we have, they had some discussions at the staff level with folks that are interested in building those into forest. We're happy to welcome them. We just want, the staff, police, fire, et cetera, want to make sure that we've got the capabilities of providing services to them, and that as much as possible, they are upfront, providing an operational plan and facilities to mitigate the need for service calls from the village. I don't know if I answered your question well enough.
No, you did, it's high on our to-do list, so, yeah. Thank you, Mark. Anybody else? Okay, trying to remember, I don't think we've got a motion yet, right? No.
Make a motion, I'll clean me up though, please, Mark or Brandy. I'd like to make a motion to approve the amendment discussed for 3B. As far as 2025 missing number, right? But 3B, for the statement to indicate the proposed use in the proposed location and as depicted on the required site and anticipated design. So forth. So,
We get it.
thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Doug. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those approving the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you all. Item number 5, presentation and discussion. There is none. Item number 6 is general public appearance. Assuming we got a number of those, so.
Speed up.
Yeah, thanks.
We do have registered. Bonds that they want to so that's what we have. Of that point, so we're not here.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So we have 6 people wishing to appear. This is under the agenda item, public appearances. It'll be given 3 minutes and we'll start the clock. And right now it's in the order that people showed up. So Keegan Strandley is the first person. And up next after Keegan is Amber Peterson. And Keegan, if you could please state your name and address if you don't.
My name's Keegan. My address is there on the list. I live in Mooresville, Wisconsin.
Keegan, could I have you state your last name too?
Straightly.
Thank you.
Yep. Local president. So obviously everyone heard my name. My name is Keegan Straightly. My family has a past and present history here in Forest. Today really, what we're going to be talking about, is going to be, I guess the biggest meeting coming up is going to be January, but that's what we're really going to be talking about, this UPS data center, but I feel like it's good to keep it relevant. So Anyways, my family has a past and a present history here in Forest. My father has been here for 10 years. My mother is, just by coincidence, has been here for 8. My grandfather grew up in this community, and my great-grandfather owned 2 houses here. Homes that he built with his own hands, being a union carpenter. The house my father lives in to this day is a place my own grandfather spent many of his formative years laughing and playing in. Since I've been here raising my daughter with my wife, I've always felt a connection to the community, the people, businesses, nature, and the history. This place feels like more of a home than anywhere I've been. But enough about me, and on to the real topic of today. I'm here today to ask that we pause for some time and truly evaluate what the impact of this data center will be. We've all heard about how it will potentially raise our utility rates, pollute the water table, and force local wildlife out with sound and light pollution. That aside, the whole project lacks transparency. If this is a data center, then where's the information? There needs to be a comprehensive plan in place. We need to see it in writing. And I feel like we need to see the following: water usage estimates, power usage estimates, including what it's going to do to our utility costs, the exact positions or jobs they're looking to create. And, I'll probably speak about that in other places as well. Full tax transparency, a list of the tax breaks, tax credits, and long-term exemptions that they're going to be getting, as well as the pollution estimates to the water and to the air. And if there's any non-disclosure agreements or anything that's hidden behind any clauses, which has happened with a lot of these data centers, that needs to be communicated to the community as well. We need it all. This is the community many of us here are raising our families in. We as residents of this great community need to know the facts, not false promises. We spent 4 years planning the last meeting that I went to, like the community meeting. I got to hear about the bike path that's going to be along Yahara. We spent 4 years planning that out. And that's a pretty long time to spend on a bike path. I understand it does have an impact, but we're going to spend 4 years on a bike path. I really feel like we should put more effort towards what's going to be going on with this QTS data center. But I sat here and listened for almost an hour-long presentation mapping out the impacts, benefits, and solutions we needed to make that bike path work. I believe we need the same, if not more, for this QTS data center. We have the land and resources that QTS needs. So, they can wait. To show that we truly want to show if they truly want to benefit the community. Here.
I'm sorry, Katie, your time was expired.
Let's go.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Keegan. So Amber, if you could make your way to the podium, the microphone, and up after Amber is a Mike DeRubis. Amber, if you could please state your name and address if you wish.
Sure. Hello, my name is Amber Peterson of 400 Columbia Avenue here in DeForest, and I have been a lifelong resident of this community, as well as many generations before me. I'm here today to oppose the annexation of Vienna Township for the purpose of the data center and the rezoning of any more prime ag land of this community. You've had, according to you, hundreds of emails and have listened to several hours of residents voicing their concerns over the energy consumption, resource usage of this monstrosity. Well, if you needed one more take on the matter, I would like to make a plea on behalf of the very soil. This soil has been tended to and carefully cultivated for over a century. I know many of the descendants today who are still acting as stewards of this land. This is the very heart of land use ethics and our moral obligations to the soil. Simply put, the soil feeds us, and this particular black dirt is some of the best producing in the state. So in a day and age where feeding our nation is a hot topic, I ask you this: just because we can pave it, should we? This tech could be obsolete in 10 years, but this land has been worked and contributed towards feeding the nation in some capacity for generations. This soil is not a resource to be squandered. Once this beautiful and fertile land is rezoned, it will never be used to sustain us in this manner again. I ask you where your moral compass is pointing, to a bank account or the generations ahead of us. Our children and their children will still need to eat at the end of the day. Really think about the topic of land use ethics and ask yourselves, what does this mean to be a steward of the land and the soil that provides for us? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Andy. Mike. And after Mike is Tricia Cyfelke.
Great. My name is Mike Derubis. I live at 416 Meadow Trail in Forest. I don't have prepared remarks, but just wanted to point to the idea in Silicon Valley, there's an idea called move fast and break things. Say topic, Mark Zuckerberg in 2012 put it on an internal memo, asking his company to take risks. To failure is okay in iteration, innovation. They've since that's become the unofficial motto of Facebook and much of the tech industry. What we're asking is for you to slow down and be intentional with this process with the data center. Moving fast and breaking things is not appropriate when you're hyperscaling and you're involving this kind of land, this size of a plot of land that's going to dwarf anything else that's in this community. I think that the tech industry model of innovating so quickly without guardrails is problematic on a number of levels. Many of the tech CEOs of the AI companies talk about possible extinction as a 1 in 5 chance that we may actually become extinct from AI. Now, is this a risk that we're willing to take, that we're willing to participate in as a community in furthering this? And I'm not a Luddite by any means. I use technology every day. I use AI daily. But we need to, I'm a fan of humane technology. And I think that this is advancing too quickly. And we need to slow down and be intentional in our participation in this race. It's basically an AI arms race. They're trying to build $1 trillion companies who can create God first. And humans are liabilities, and we don't have supports in place to transition the new economy as the data center and the AI basically continues to take over more and more of the jobs. Amazon, for example, is planning to cut 600,000 jobs and already 75% of their operations. Who's going to buy their stuff if we can't afford it? If we don't have homes who's going to pay the taxes, property taxes, if we can't afford our homes? Because the values have diminished inside of this data center. There's so many questions that go on for a long time, and we're just going off the cuff here, but there are far more questions than there are answers related to this, and it's far bigger, connected to a lot of bigger things than just a single data center project. Related to the last presentation, too, 69 acres compared to 1,600 is it's 24 times the size roughly. The scale of this is just massive. A small development makes sense to me, or the earlier project on the data center I'm opposed to. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Tricia, and after Tricia is Jack Bradshaw.
Tricia Bolke, my address is on the sheet. I live in DeForest. I'm here because I believe DeForest is growing too fast. I understand that the Planning Commission's job is to assess requests based on their adherence to the statutes. However, in trying to look for the reason why the village seems so eager to land this data center deal, I've stumbled on some troubling statistics. Bill Chang told us in a recent meeting about our petition that state law dictates we need to create net new construction or we go bust. He had concerns that our petition limited that necessary development, that if we grow, our tax levy stays flat. Inflation eats away at purchasing power, and village services like recycling and fire protection can't keep up. Ultimately, our quality of life will suffer. But is DeForest really struggling to grow? Is Bill's concern about our proposed legislation accurate? Is this new data center the only solution to rescue DeForest from certain death? No. Why are so many projects like the one on today's agenda necessary? Projects continue to encroach upon land that was supposed to be preserved as agricultural and environmental in the comprehensive plan in the name of necessary growth. It seems that planning and zoning commissioners are pushing so many things through without enough thought. There are 1,903 municipalities in Wisconsin with 8 years of history for net new construction in the state's records. DeForest annual average is the 11th best in the state. In fact, it's just barely shy of ninth place Mount Pleasant, who recently put in a $1 billion data center. Additionally, DeForest growth has been extremely steady, and these numbers are even beating inflation every year. No other community in the state is doing that. We don't need to annex any more land. We need to slow down. We don't need to rezone any more agricultural land because the total valuation of DeForest has more than doubled since 2018. We need to stop chasing these big projects at this rate. If we added the billions from the data center, how do we grow at the same rate from there? How is that smart growth? This can only end poorly with every square inch of DeForest developed. We will kill quality of life trying to save it. Bill Chang also made it clear that communication is very important to him. So why wasn't it communicated to us that we need to grow faster to survive when we are out surpassing almost every single town and village in this state? How is that transparency? How is that smart growth? Planning and zoning is allowing DeForest to change so fast that Google Maps can't even keep up with our boundaries. Our village appears development happy and seems to be chasing several projects that the village residents don't even seem to want, including a high-risk project that we definitely don't need. As a result, our taxes will increase 7.85% in the coming year, placing an extra burden on taxpayers. This is not the DeForest that I chose to call my home in 2014. And it does not reflect the comprehensive plan that's supposed to manage our growth. Please slow down with the rezoning and annexation of farmland. I don't believe being the fastest growing community is a badge of honor, and it doesn't support our vision for smart growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Tricia. So Jeff Bradshaw is next, and after Jeff is Elliot Long. Jeff, if you could state your name and address, if you wish.
Hey, good evening. My name is Jeff Bradshaw. My address is logged on the form. And I'm speaking tonight to urge the zoning commission to vote no on any land use for the proposed QTS data center development. I've lived in DeForest for 26 years. I've raised 3 kids here. And part of what makes the village special is its small town feel. The village's own comprehensive plan says that's the #1 reason that people choose this as the community in which to live. And the very purpose of the zoning commission is to help the village stay in tune with the long-term plans developed through community input about what we want this village to look like. So you're all going to be on the front lines of this important decision, as I'm sure you know and feel the weight of that already. As you review the materials for the data center, I urge you to stay true to that responsibility of listening to what the plan says and what the community has invested long-term for this. The proposed project suits neither the letter nor the spirit of the village comprehensive plan, which includes the specific guidelines and vision for our community. Rather, it's wildly out of scale with any form of anticipated development. And as a community, we have neither the infrastructure nor the support for this kind of project, even if it were a priority in our planning systems. In particular, our community has stressed particular planning guidance and specific policies and priorities in that long-term plan. Particularly for land use, we're directed to say that we will work in cooperation with surrounding towns and maintain productive agricultural lands in areas surrounding the village where not identified for development in this comprehensive plan. The quote larger or potentially controversial projects, unquote, to encourage advanced neighborhood consultation. For future land use, to adhere to the agricultural preservation and land division policies relating to natural and cultural resources. And while some may argue that this is a completely unprecedented scope of project, and when opportunity knocks, we need to strike. In those situations, I urge you to think about what is the spirit of the plan saying, not just what the letter of the law is not there to address this situation. What does the spirit of the plan say? And this proposed data center is clearly not in keeping with the spirit of what we asked for our community. The plan is very clear about what we call a right fit to continue to make sure developments that are a right fit for DeForest in the plan. We talk about a phased approach that looks at promoting orderly sequential land use for community development that preserves agricultural land in the natural environment and keep the public infrastructure and utility use planning in conserves. This project meets neither the spirit nor the letter of the plan, and I urge you to keep those things in mind as the rest of the community moves forward with this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Ellie?
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Elliot Long. Good work.
Hi.
And my address is on the. And I don't have any notes. I'm just letting you know that I'm wrapping up a 43-year career as a data center manager and AI expert, cybersecurity and telecom. I've lived in California and Hawaii and around the world in Europe. And I think this is just a bleakly bad idea. And primarily, the forest will suffer. The main reasons are, I agree with all the environmental land use, stick with farming, stick with small. Those are all good ideas, but you don't want to go to bed with a large company like QTS, even though I really am convinced that QTS is just the tip of the spear. I tried to do a little bit of research on QTS, and all I found was kind of, feel good fluff, all they could dig up was a scissors jack accident that happened years ago. I just don't believe it. And I've been chasing down misinformation for 15 years. A red flag that popped up in some of my research is that, they do have a tie with Blackstone. And they sold the company to Blackstone for $10 billion just a few years ago. And Blackstone is the largest private equity firm in the world, I believe. And this is the kind of stupid, terrorizing money that you don't want anywhere near your community, because this is in the same way that elephants don't, respect where ants are walking. There's no reason that Blackstone or anybody that deals with them needs to respect you at all. And they can just lie point blank to you and do whatever they want and publish things. It doesn't really matter. Their lawyers will own you. And if they can't beat you in court, they'll just buy you. We're seeing it all over the United States right now, where particularly farmers that would not sell out for any reason whatsoever suddenly change their mind because of money. Money, when it gets that big, changes everything. They can buy this town board, they can buy this town, they can do what you want. Do not let the nose of this giant private equity company with ties to Blackstone, don't let the nose of the camel under the tent. It's the kind of corporations that kill leaders of other countries and start wars and do whatever they want to. And the reason is because they can. They have trillions of dollars and you don't. So my years of experience tell me that stay the hell away, go slow, back off, maybe a data center down the road, slower, smarter, and get something out of it. Are you familiar with how they're doing data centers in Europe? Europe does everything smarter. They're harvesting the heat off of them. They're putting them in urban areas. Lots and lots of good things that, guess what? QTS doesn't make as much money that way. So they're not going to consider any of that because they're in this for sheer profit. And it's the ugly profit motives that you want to keep out of this town. They're not going to do you any good. They might throw something your way, but it's a bone only to get eventually what they want. I can keep going, but I feel like I said it, so don't trust this company. I vote no, totally on this data center. Thank you for holding the meeting.
And thank you, Ellie. And with that, I believe that is everybody that's registered. So I thank you all. Yeah. So on with that is item number 7. And item number 7 is any other business that is lawfully come before the Planning and Zoning Commission. And right off the bat is Chair's report. I can report, people can fill in for me some too. We had some presentations from the university on affordable housing. Sorry, I'm just looking through. We had meeting where QTS actually did a presentation that was on November 18th. And quite a few people attended that, and that meeting also included the operational budget of the forest. So we have our budget all set and ready to go for taxes. Yep, that's what I'll say about that meeting. And we had again some other university came in and talked about the bike park, and fiscal, and we talked about the fiscal impact tool. Guess I will leave it at that, Mark, or Alex, do you wanna add anything about like the fiscal impact tool, or do you make me?
I could just briefly say, so we, utilized a consultant to gather a fiscal impact tool that does economic assessments of projects, but primarily we're hoping it to be an input to, long range planning decisions. So that we can make land use decisions that rezoning or however we do our next comp plan update for future landing with an input. Obviously, there's a lot that goes into those decisions, but one of those inputs would be what's the fiscal implications to the village? How does it impact our provision of public services? And is there a revenue? What's the corresponding revenue to address that too? So I think it'll be a useful tool for us as we kind of go about our planning activities.
Thank you. And with that, I will end that in staff report 7.2.
So I'll kick this off. So I mentioned at the previous planning and zoning meeting that we'd be engaging some external resources to help us out with the potential review of the QTS data center. I have Thor joining us, and I think Sam Schultz is online too from Von Briesen. So they're a legal firm who also has in-house planning capabilities. And as we saw with their earlier rezoning tonight, should this development come through the review process here, we've also got 69 acres of spec industrial housing, other activities that Mark, Randy, myself have to keep our focus on too. So part of this is a capacity building activity so that we can continue to operate efficiently. And then part of it also is to bring in additional resources who have experience looking at these types of projects. So tonight, I want to introduce you to Thor Jepson and Sam Schultz, who again, I believe is online.
Yes, yes.
Okay, and so they're going to be the lead for any zoning or land use related items that QTS submits for review. Obviously, there'll be heavy coordination. Our staff, our team knows the village very, very well. So this is obviously Mark will be heavily involved, but you can expect them to lead presentations going forward as well. With that, I'll turn it over to Thor or Sam, whoever wants to take from.
I'm happy to go first. So like Alex said, thank you, Alex, for the introduction, and commissioners that happy to be here. Thank you for having us tonight. My name is Thor Jepson. I'm a land use and development advisor with Von Briesen and Roper. We have been selected to work with the village to provide plan and review for the QTS data center proposal to help with the meetings, the presentations, and review all the land use and planning decisions that will go into that annexation proposal, comp plan amendment, rezoning, and all that. I have a background in planning and natural resources management and 6 years experience across state and local government in environmental review, transportation planning, long range planning, zoning review, and looking forward to working with the village. Turn it over to Sam.
All right. Can everyone hear me?
I think we got you.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you again. Just to reiterate what Thor said, I appreciate the opportunity to work with the village. My name is Sam. I also work at Von Briesen with Thor. I'm the other land use and development advisor. I'm based out of our Milwaukee office, covering a lot of Southeast Wisconsin and then providing backup to staff across the state as well. We do a lot of zoning code work that relates obviously to a lot of legal questions. I was interested to listen to your conditional use discussion earlier. We do a lot of that work across the state. But we also do a lot of this assistance and backup for communities and staff. Obviously, there are a lot of busy communities out there and a lot that need a little bit of help to stay afloat and keep everything smooth and applications and permits being reviewed in a timely manner. So happy to provide that opportunity. I've worked for about 10 years in planning and development, worked as a community development director in Southeast Wisconsin. So I have a lot of experience and empathy for the staff side, and we'll look to just provide that similar level of quality and service to you all as we go through the process here.
Thank you.
So just wanted to take this opportunity just to introduce them to you. Certainly, if there are any questions about their background or anything they want to bring up now, you can. Otherwise, I can kind of talk just briefly about process from here and some of the meetings that we might see them at.
Yeah, please do.
Just for transparency, who's paying for your services?
So that, I'll take that question. So thank you. As part of our typical order of business, we have reimbursement agreements when development projects come in. And so costs that we have associated with review of projects, similar with our consultants that we have standardly, all that cost is borne by the developer.
Anything else, Doug? Thank you. Alex, I guess when you move on, could you let me know, like, how do you expect us to coordinate with you or this?
Internally.
Yeah. Yeah, as far as the proposals moving forward, or if it gets submitted, should our commissioners email you, or
Yes,
is there
no,
an
absolutely.
email that we should use instead?
Yeah, so for now, I guess that's still a point to be worked through. I imagine that if you do have direct questions, the best approach would be to circulate those among staff that you're typically used to. And then in any correspondence, we'll loop the consultants in as needed.
Okay.
So then, from a timing perspective, obviously, holidays, this was our second Monday reservation today meeting, won't be meeting later this month. Our next meeting is January 27th. So we can expect to see the folks from Von Briesen at that meeting. You all may be aware that the village on Thursday rejected the 2 annexation petitions that were submitted by QTS in favor of having them submit 1 comprehensive petition so that we could review the entire project and have, for lack of a better word, a full picture of what the scope of the development is. So with that, we're anticipating having a concept presentation by the developer at that January 27th planning and zoning meeting. And that would, again, in the interest of getting the full picture, that would be a presentation that would entail the entire scope of the development. I say scope, meaning the entire footprint and the concept plan. Obviously, we're not talking about site plans or any of those details. If it even gets to that point, that's much farther down the line. Because we have, like we saw earlier today, these other projects in the way too, I would ask that commissioners hold the February 9th, which is the second Monday that we typically reserve for special meetings, hold that date as well, in case we need to use that. And then the February 24th, I would say as well. So we're hoping to put up, we have, if you haven't seen it already, on engagedforest.com, we have a special page dedicated to the project. As with many developments, schedules shift sometimes, and we try to do the best we can in communicating information timely. But that, I would still say, you know, that is a good resource for you all to tap into and monitor for schedule updates. Obviously, we'll also communicate with you all directly too. But those dates, so January 27th, planning and zoning would be a concept presentation, and then I would hold the 9th and the 24th for further activities.
Thank you, Alex, and I will note, or if you could confirm, this will also be active at the village board level as far as discussions there, so it might be great for commissioners to tune in to the village board too.
Absolutely. So again, I'm hoping that if this page isn't updated tonight, it'll be updated this week with the potential schedule. But at virtually every village board meeting between now and the 27th throughout February, we'll be discussing the project, trying to wrap our heads around. I think we heard a lot tonight and at previous meetings too. This idea of being very intentional. I think I could say that tonight too. And that's really what we're trying to build into this. So having these very intentional conversations to explore all aspects of the development at the village board meetings between now and the concept presentation, and certainly between now and any potential action future as well. So great point, Jim, for commissioners who don't necessarily always tune in, although I think you all do pay attention to village board issues too. It's a good opportunity to get additional information. Obviously, when it comes back to you all in whatever shape that comes back to, we'll also bring the information that we glean at those board meetings to this body too, so you have a little bit more to make informed decisions.
Thank you, Alice. Anything further on staff report?
That's all I had. So thank you, Sandy, and for fun reason for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Item 7.3, site plan approval. So there's Butterfly Creations. Anything more to state?
Yeah, so, just keeping you informed and in the loop on staff approval processes for site plans. We did have site plan submitted that was just shy of the 3,000 square foot requirement to bring it before P and Z. So we did do review and approvals at the staff level for that. It is, the information was in your packet as far as the site plans go, conditional approval, all of that. It is for a small commercial shop to be located on the corner of Peterson Crossing and Border Pass near the Ziggy Field baseball field. And the intention is for retail commercial use in the building. So that was included in your packet just to inform you of what we did approve at the site.
Thank you, Brandy. CSM approvals. Thank you. Item 7.5, development process and enforcement suggestions. Anybody? Lisa?
Thank you, Jen. I just had a few things I wanted to share about process improvements. Normally, towards the end of our meetings, we have staff reports. For example, Alex will give us an update. It might be something like they were approached by X contractor to review ABC project. Or Brandy might share out a enforcement or policing work, right? Pick and saves parking lot, please prepare it. And I was very concerned that we had no notification on the QTS project. In fact, planning and zoning was an afterthought. I did have a chance to touch base with Chairman Simpson today, where he thought it would be a good idea to bring this concern forward tonight at this point. I think planning and zoning should be viewed as business partners, as a first line defense for project review and risk mitigation. Our president was Jane Wolfram, has done a great job putting together very educated, very talented and tenured persons from their industries to help staff with these reviews. This is where governance and oversight happens. When there's a failure in that aspect, we can't provide partnership here. For example, when QTS president was talking about his history, same with his partner Ryan, I think he was like CFO or something. They talked about their military background. We talked a little bit about their business, but yes, I knew that they were veterans. I knew all about their company before it was even presented to the village board, because as P&Z, we do our due diligence to help answer and provide that Q&A. I knew it was Blackstone. I know their corporate veil is thick, as Mr. Warren represented here. It is thick and it is a serious corporate veil. They have LLCs and companies several pages thick. S&P Global is a great resource for anybody who has access to it. And that's what I pulled for my resource as an FYI. I really would like to have these projects provided in a more orderly fashion with an opportunity to provide input. It is concerning that I got a brochure and an email from Bill Chang on the same day. I knew from the brochure, what is this QTS thing going on? And then an email from Bill Chang. This is not the way things should happen in my opinion. And I think, without, pushing too much criticism, whatever oversight happened, it's very clear to me that we might have an opportunity to improve our processes and to have better checks and balances. And so I would request that, any annexation, I believe we have something like 120 days, after receipt for some type of review. Potentially, planning and zoning should be the first to be notified of an annexation request. Whereas with QTS and other annexations, we've received notification. Annexation, zoning, all notifications that would normally be shared with a village board should provide the appropriate public class notifications. And if we're doing that, can we get advance notice to those public class notifications? I think that would be helpful in our preparation and our due diligence as we try to partner with village staff and be good stewards in consideration of our place of public trust here. I believe Alex mentioned reserving February 9th and the 23rd. With all of this in mind, I wanted to make sure that you're aware, I did submit a request for an agenda item and a thorough review of QTS. Using my risk management background, it is broad. And I understand that we have partners now via Von Briesen who may assist us with that. Greg, please review my request for that agenda item with those very specific disclosures that I requested, not just from QTS, but from our business partners here within Dane County as well. I would ask that you work with me on that agenda item and securing those disclosures, however that needs to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. And I do want to echo some of your sentiment as far as like working with, I think there could be some good discussion, maybe even a agenda item in the future as far as any process to make sure that we keep people informed and maybe have a little bit more review time. And I guess Alex, I see you nodding along because I think there was some discussion about that. So I wonder if that's what you're wanting to share.
Well, I guess I want to clarify more than anything. So, with the understanding that I understand that QTS is the topic that everybody has in the front of their minds right now, but they're not necessarily on the agenda. So I want to hone in on the process piece. And outside of that project, understand the request from you from a process standpoint generally. Is it specific to annexations and awareness of those going forward? Because there are, so just for example, so there are under our normal course of business, there are times when, again, in the interest of transparency and doing things in a public setting, when we have certain opportunities to present things to you and get you awareness in a public setting, like our regular meetings. So I guess I'm just trying to understand what the ask is.
Transparency, quite frankly. When we have, when we get updates on the Pick and Save parking lot, why wouldn't we get an update that you were approached by a data center? Why wouldn't that be provided? Right? I mean, so it's transparency all the way around, whether it's an update within this type of forum, right, at the end of our meetings, or whether it's I think there is a need for improvements, right? Annexation, P&Z should be notified. It shouldn't come to us 3 days in a packet, 3 days before a meeting, right? The typical process is we get the packet on a Friday, maybe, and sometimes on Thursday. Yeah, and we have like 3 days to review, right?
Sure. Yep.
Right.
No, that totally makes sense. There are specific turnarounds, but so again, just to get back to transparency is a broad. So I think that's something that we strive to do. Again, trying to have these conversations in a very public setting rather than sending you an email individually or whatever. So I'm trying to understand again. Transparency is broad. What's the specific ask from a process standpoint?
Yeah, the specific ask is to adhere to our our notifications that would be like, we were approached by agency contractors with the XYZ proposal, right? So if it fits, right, we were approached, why wasn't it shared? It should be shared here, right? And then additionally, I would propose that in the future, if there's an annexation or there's a significant proposals of that nature, it should be brought forward, whether it's here or maybe it is a special email. We sign up for this. Let us do the work, give us a chance.
So an earlier notice of, okay, so we can work on it. I'm happy to work on it.
I would raise my hand to be part of a committee to do that with you. And
Okay.
make some improvements.
Okay, I think I just need to better understand.
Yeah.
And I think this, again, it could be a topic for a future agenda, you know, but something that I was thinking of is there's, say, like zoning or rezoning and annexation, there's that additional notices, a class 2 notice or whatever, and maybe if it's something reaches that type of a notice, that we try to get the information out, let's say a week earlier to planning and zoning commissioners rather than say the typical 3-day Friday. I don't know, again, something to talk about, and maybe when a petition is, or I guess the submittal is given to DeForest, that maybe we follow it up with an email to the commissioners, just so they're notified that that is given to DeForest. Sure. I can think about it. It's been really sort of just today I've been thinking about it, so I guess we can come up with maybe other ideas that might be beneficial.
Yeah, I think it's a good conversation to have, and I think, you know, we can try to find something that works for you all, who ultimately are the ones sitting in the chair making decisions. So I'm happy to keep fleshing this out.
Thank you for listening to my concerns. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Lisa. Anything else, commissioners? Jean, yeah?
Yeah, if we, and I respect the comments that you made, Lisa, but if we take the QTS piece out of it, I mean, just any of our rezoning or any of our topics are in the packet. Isn't that the opportunity for our notification for us to review them? I mean, totally take the QTS out of the equation.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I mean-
QTS is just the most recent example,
It-
right? But like even moving forward, do we have an opportunity to tighten up the process, right? Whether it's checks and balances on what gets shared exactly as, item 7, whatever, development enforcement suggestions, or what exactly are we being approached for project review, right, within DeForest? QTS, even aside, just the most recent, top headline, right? Any project that we might get approached by, we are normally advised on those in that section. QTS was just the one that slipped through the cracks, right? And there was some oversight there apparently that may have been missed. So how do we tighten that up and make it better for the next project that gets proposed, right? And P&Z is skipped over.
Okay, I was just trying to separate out, because that is, when we get the packet on Thursday morning, whatever day it is. That is our notification for us then to do our due diligence and do it. And with us having a meeting on Monday, that does take one day out of that equation, but that is our opportunity to review things and ask her feedback through Brandy. Like say, if we need something, if we need Mark to help us with something or, so that's, I guess I don't want you guys to feel as though that you're not providing us with the info in the packet, because you are.
Did you know about QTS as an example? Again,
Lisa, there's
we
a
didn't.
Robert's rules or order, you need to be addressing me, and right now Jean's got the floor, so
I'm good.
thank you. Colleen, or then Tracy?
I'm a little confused here. Are we in essence saying that any time a business comes to staff and says, we're thinking maybe we'd like to come to town, that we need to be notified about that?
I guess my interpretation of what Lisa is asking is that we discuss that further on the agenda item. I feel like we're going a little bit too far without it actually being on.
I think we should just end the conversation then and put it on the agenda.
Yeah,
So. I think this is actually a productive thing, because I think it's good for us to figure out exactly how we want to have this kind of communication between the commissioners and staff. But I had the same question, so perhaps I can commit to coming back at a future meeting and bringing something for us to orient around this. Because I can tell you from a just practical standpoint, for every Butterfly Creations or coffee shop that says I'd like to come to DeForest and actually comes to DeForest and does it, I have probably 17 conversations that don't. And have talking with other communities, and that's just the nature of development in general. And so that's kind of the point that I was asking, is just where is the delineation? And I think we can find that. But let me do some homework and maybe bring some stuff for us to orient around it in a more structured form.
thank you, Alex. Colleen, you still have the floor?
Well, at this point, it kind of sounds to me like micromanagement of our staff. A lack of trust in our staff. I mean, good Lord, you can't be bringing everything to us saying, say, Mr. So-and-so from this outfit came into the office today, and they're kind of thinking maybe they'd like to move to DeForest. That's not necessary. That's what staff is for. When we get to the point that something is coming into town and there's actually plans and whatnot to look at, that's a different story.
Thank you, Colleen. Lisa, you wanted to speak more?
I mean, I agree, it has good outlook. I mean, not every project settings approaches, but there could be an improvement, there could be a line that we could find that maybe creates a little bit better transparency on some of those that get as far along as, such as a QTS. It's just concerning that something like that got that far along. So where do we find that line? And again, I will raise my hand, I'm trying to help and partner with you and find what is reasonable, so that we can be that good partner to staff and provide feedback and that governance and oversight. That's why we are here in City, right? That's why we said, yes, I will bring my talents. So, yeah, use us.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. Alex?
Totally agree. Happy to work with you. I would just also just want to be very clear that as it relates to QTS, they're not that far along. We haven't even entered the process. So there's that piece that I just want to put out there. But
Thank you, Alex. Any other development process and enforcement suggestions? Seeing none, I will mention that our next meeting is January 27th. And I would ask for a motion to adjourn. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Jean, is there a second? Second by Lisa. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0, and we are adjourned at 7:55. Thank you all for coming.